Hi, welcome back. This is Rooney207. For today's episode, I'd like to talk about some of the strategies that League of Kingdoms can potentially borrow from Rise of Kingdoms, from RoK, for managing their bots. RoK is older game, so they have gone through fighting, and they're also Web 2, so they have much higher incentives to battle bots versus the Web 3. There's different ways they can leverage blockchain to build to do it. For this particular incident, I'd like to look at how we do continent versus continent and then apply that similar approach to the actual continent itself. So when we look at, I'm in continent 4 here, and as you can see how we do with continent versus continent, we have gates, and then we have the fortresses that segment the various land area. So how Rise of Kingdoms, what they do is they do it by zones. They have zones that are near the essentially their version of the Congress, and then they have those are the top, and then they'll all the way go down from let's say that's like a zone 3, and then they'll do 2 and 1, and the players or the accounts that they do not want to be able to take advantage of, let's say, the higher resources, the higher crystals, or in their case, gems gathering, and things like that, or anything that you want to have higher resources to monsters, higher level monsters, anything that is of value, or players would add or attribute a higher value to, they would put it in the central area. In this case, where we are with within Congress, the Congress zone, and then as we go further and further out, we can add gates, and then we can add fortresses to kind of manage that, where accounts that are known to be bot-like or to attribute to, where just the kingdom in general and the top alliance, or the top two three alliance within the actual continent that regularly contribute and participate in continent versus continent. Essentially, at the end of the day, it's about the continent, and it's about its contribution and its players towards the success or failure of the continent versus continent events, and any of the special events in the future that League of Kingdoms and Plus decides to create. So to kind of better manage that, they can build gates and fortresses to slowly push out players that are just essentially there to farm gems, farm resources to sell, and to build up their own land for their owners in other continents. So the players migrate to other continents that are not as populated, and they take advantage, and then they go back and they build on those other continents. They carry back resources and crystals back to their home continent and their main account. So that's one of the ways they can grow, and one of the ways to mitigate and manage that is to build gates, zones, and fortresses to enable the king or the top alliance or the top 2-3 alliances that will ultimately benefit from continent versus continent to be able to manage this. The downside is where we have in terms of land. So the good part is land. You can just check the box where your main land is. You can participate in, virtually anywhere, and to be able to contribute crystals to it. I think where it may be hampered is where the DSA, the new Drago mines are. So I think the game has to make a decision to be able to populate the Drago mines in essentially primarily the higher ones in the zones that are closer to Congress, and then the next set. So basically only 2 of the top zones get the DSA to ensure that there's participation and contribution to the kingdom. And then there's incentives to stake. Currently, there's not a lot of incentives to stake RoK in the game. I realize that they're kind of creating one for the individual, creating the 9-tier box, but then there's the Ethereum gas fee to it, and also what they're providing. From what I guess we'll just wait to see what the actual all 9 tier packages come out. But essentially, the RoK staking isn't worth it for individual players, because essentially you just get things like crystals, resources, teleports, things that may help you, and they're soul bound. But at the end of the day, they're not deal breakers. They're not something that players would be motivated to stake additional loca at an individual level, unless you're a top one and you have some kind of influence and you get a larger soulbound NFT or things like that. And I wish that these NFTs are not soulbound. You can sell them, and there's other ways to monetize it. It's Web3, and there's a lot of restrictions around that. So it's one of the things I'm hoping that N plus would consider is implementing these zones, these gates, and these fortresses around the regular continent as well, to kind of help the kings and the top alliances to manage the bots or trolls, other players that migrate to their kingdom to be able to just take advantage of their resources. This is just my initial thoughts, and thank you so much.